do you still trust password managers?
Hmm.
That's not rhetorical. I'm asking you. Do you
Oh,
still trust?
yes.
Yes.
Do I still trust them? Maybe a little bit less, but the efficiency gains are so worth it. So,
And the security gains,
mhm.
using a password manager to just generate a secure password
Yes.
every time for
Right.
every single account is significantly more secure than trying to remember a password.
Yeah.
Multi-factor authentication. If you are abiding by our aggressive guidance, which is multi-factor. I think we just had a social post I went out today on this again. Multi-factor everything where available, and it's unfortunate that the qualifier is where available because because it is incumbent upon the host of the account to provide multi-factor authentication feature. And unfortunately, and I said this before, we still see vendors not turning it on by default.
I was going to ask you that. So I think I have a mix. I think most of them are forcing it, but I still have the option, skip this step or remind me again in 30 days. But I think that's probably going away. It's going to have to.
I mean, Microsoft's trying to push that away from their Office 365. So I think they're making that mandated now, which is huge. We still see a lot of technical tools that we use to support our clients, still making multi-factor optional because the geeks are loud and they complain a lot, and they and I see these software vendors all the time trying not to annoy the geeks, and I'm looking at this and like, how dare you act in a counter to the best interest of security, and not do something as important as multi-factor. Because with the LastPass hack, all these databases were siphoned off and downloaded, and now they can be brute forced, and then the username and passwords can be extrapolated potentially. But even with a username and password, multi-factor authentication is AKA two-factor. And again, unfortunately, there's confusion in that as well. Two-factor and multi-factor are the same thing. It is a second or more factor of security. So password managers definitely managing secure passwords, multi-factor everything. Now, there is a scenario where you can actually use the password manager to store your second factor.
Yeah.
And we do see that, and there are scenarios where that is problematic. So
that's an interesting point. Do you have I guess if they're separate, as a user or as an IT guy, a preference versus using a text code or something like a semantic VIP or something like that has a code?
Are you saying like text versus email versus the application?
Yeah, so like one of the logins I have, their two factors, the semantic security code thing, like, so you log in and then you use the app. Some of them, they'll text me the 6-digit code. Do you have a preference?
So the technology of that second factor is called timed one-time password.
Yeah.
And the question is, how can you be challenged and respond with the timed one-time password? They call it TOTP, timed one-time password. And the vendor may have the ability to text you the TOTP, the timed one-time password, email it to you, or you can pre-configure a relationship in your authenticator app, air quotes, which is what you were showing on screen there. Without a doubt, the authenticator apps to furnish the timed one-time password is much more secure, because email can be compromised, because we had SIM attacks, or where people are calling T-Mobile or Verizon and hijacking your cell phone account. I mean, that was incredibly that came to light 10 years ago or more. That was incredibly easy for hackers to call your cell phone company, give them enough information about you, and convince the agent on the phone that the hacker was you, and then you can do a mobile swap of your SIM card, and now you can get those timed one-time passwords. So the app is definitely the strongest mode of security, but not without its faults, because if you're using the same authenticator app that you're using for your password manager, and your password manager is compromised, then there's a problem there. So now it's kind of like we're recommending maybe using a different authenticator app than you from your password manager. So obviously all the keys aren't stored in one location. I
Right.
mean, the obvious fault of a password manager is the single point of failure.
Mhm.
So like you have one big ass vault door protecting what's behind the door, but it's also one big ass target.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
definitely. And
um,
don't ever use your cell phone number as your username for any website. Should be a Captain Obvious, but I know there's some cell prone providers who had that as the default, right? So if you log into AT&T, your default username was your cell phone number. So if you have that stored in LastPass and LastPass gets hacked, they're like, oh, that looks an awful lot like a phone number. This guy lives in Hartford and he's got an 860 username. I wonder if that's his phone number. So
yeah.
crazy.
So password managers still a necessary security measure. They will continue to be hacked. The question is, will we see the other players in the space that are really riding high on the fact that they haven't publicized a
Mm,
hack or compromise yet? That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. We just don't know about it. LastPass has been really responsible with their reporting. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out over the next year. I know
yeah,
that Microsoft and Google and Apple are working on passwordless technology. I don't
right.
know if you saw that or not,
Yep.
but um,
Yeah, they've been saying that for a while. I don't know what the technology is like that for a while, but even still, I'm not super comfortable. I know, like uh, with like Google, like I wouldn't if Google had a password manager that was like even if I don't know, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. So I'd rather have it somewhere else. Maybe you feel differently, but um,
I think the idea is if you succeed in registering your mobile device with the online account in question, whether it's your
mhm,
iCloud account, your Google, Gmail, or whatever, if you successfully do register your cell phone with that service um, securely, the idea is when you go to log in, you tell them who you are, your email address,
mhm,
and they will just prompt you on your mobile device. Is this you trying to log in? And then you just say yes, and then
yeah,
you're in. So it's the we've last year we saw that there was a particular multi-factor authentication can kind of work that way too. There's a way that where you don't have to type in the one-time password. It will prompt you to just yes or no. And we did see last year a MFA fatigue attack where hackers were trying to log into accounts and waiting for somebody to just accidentally say yes, allow on their mobile device,
mm,
or just get so tired of it. Maybe they're like, I don't know, maybe Apple's trying to like do maintenance on the system. Just maybe if I hit approve, it'll stop asking me every couple minutes. You know what I mean?
yep,
Um, and so those are called multi-factor authentication fatigue
yeah,
attacks or MFA fatigue attacks. Um,
right.
so
Yeah,
what?
and those, a lot of the websites you go to will say, do you want to create your own username and password or log in with your Google account or log in with whatever, which I shied away from for a while, but I admit I'm starting to use those more and more.
And that's called SSO, and that's a really exciting technology
Mhm,
because we use that for our clients and internally because again, it's a single point of failure from a security standpoint, but it's also a single kill switch. So
mhm,
we can program all of the web apps that I so enthusiastically discussed in my last segment. You can take all your web apps, configure them to all use your Google or Microsoft identity to log in. And the benefit of that is your employees and your users can just once they log into their email, for example, then they can just start opening their other apps across new tabs and new browsers.
mhm,
And if it'll say, "Oh, you're logged into your Office 365 account," great, we will let you into this software. No username, no password, no multi-factor authentication prompt. So
mhm,
it's ease of use on the employee side and the resource side. It's also a single kill switch for IT. So when you have an employee who's needs to is being terminated or needs to exit, you have a single kill switch for all of your apps that support that single sign-on. So that's what that is. And then you're seeing it on the consumer side where like if you go to facebook.com or you just go to some other system and it says, hey, do you want to log in with your Gmail account? that is
mhm.
that is a consumer facing version of single sign on, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and relating back to news, so Amazon is offering up their buy with Prime. They're actually offering that up to, which is, I guess, in a way, a form of sort of single sign-on. So if you're going to, you know, Jane's Doilies or whatever and buying something on their website, you'll
Oh,
be
I
able to
see.
use that buy with Prime. So you're not entering, doing another
Got
username,
it.
password.
Yeah.
So
PayPal was
um,
kind of doing that for right?
yeah,
PayPal was
and
following the
yeah, Shopify too. But I guess
Shopify. Yeah.
Amazon's such a dominant player in their space. They have had that open, I think, for some larger retailers, but now they're opening it up and making it a little bit easier for smaller retailers to use that. So I guess that's probably a good thing. But same sort of thing, single point, but also single kill too. So I guess
Right.
that's a good thing.
And I'll just end that saying like traditionally in security, the more usable something is, the less secure it becomes.
Yep.
And there's that relationship. So hopefully the brain trust in Silicon Valley will solve that problem someday.
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah. I mean, the phones are good because they have the built-in camera, so you can do fingerprint stuff, you can do iris stuff.
I know we're running long, but
Yeah.
did you look at CES? You know what CES is?
Yeah, yeah,
The
is it
consumer elec
officially called CES, right? It's not called it's not an acronym
It's the
anymore.
Consumer Electronics Show, which is
Right.
it takes place in Vegas every year. It's massive. It's like the biggest trade show for consumer electronics. It's
Mhm.
largely turning into a transportation show.
Correct.
The car manufacturers are having huge, like bigger and bigger presence there, which is just telling. Which we've been saying this: the EV and the car of the future is becoming a platform, a smart
Mhm.
platform. It's becoming a technology platform, and the car manufacturers are knowing that, a la Tesla. Um, anyways, just to tie it in, they're starting to put fingerprint scanners and biometric in the cars.
Mhm.
So unlock the car with your thumbprint, start the car with your thumbprint. Mercedes is saying your your preferences in the vehicle can be bound to your biometric. So your your music apps and your seat positioning and your steering wheel positioning and any preferences that they have are, so I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I like that. I like that a little bit better than tying it all back to the key or the phone. I mean, I'd hate to, be at an event, drop my phone, and then somehow that somebody goes and steals my car because I dropped my phone. Like that's
Right.
never made me super comfortable. And it's
Right.
one of those things where just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean,
Mhm.
like, it's cool technology to be able to do that, but I don't
Yeah,
know
but
what
don't forget that if properly implemented, you have to be authenticated on your phone first in order to use the phone as an authenticating device
right, right.
forward. Uh,
But then at that point, it becomes like, if I'm walking to my car in a parking lot, do I want to just press the unlock button or do I want to unlock my phone and then tell my phone to unlock my car? It's just,
I
I
want
don't know.
facial recognition at the door.
Right, right. That's what
Yeah,
makes sense.
that
Or
would be
or
nice.
just have it built into the to your handle, right? You put
Yeah.
your
Yeah, right. Yeah, as soon as you make the point of contact. Although some of these cars are popping the door open automatically for you. I think the Tesla Model S and X do that.
yeah, yeah. As long as they
Sorry, we're
can
in a rattle.
as long as they can detect how close the other car is to you and whatever. Like I'm sometimes nervous about doing the remote trunk thing of the Volvo. I got to do that. I got to be in pretty close line of sight to make sure I'm not nailing the car behind me. But